This little whiteboard video is going to feel a whole lot like being in a regular classroom for you because I have information on the whiteboard that may be difficult for you to read, but just pretend you're sitting in the back row and you have to strain your eyes a little bit to make out what it is I've got up here on the board. I briefly wanted to go over the three major sentence structure errors that crop up in writing everywhere. There are sentence fragments, run-on sentences, which are also known as fused sentences, and comma splices. And so when I'm grading your papers, I will in fact be taking off points for these errors, and it would be helpful if you had some idea what they are and how to fix them. So let me quickly give you an example of a sentence fragment. Up here at the top, it says, I buy new boots, period, because I want to, period. Now the little section there that says because I want to sounds a lot like some 14-year-olds I know and some 2-year-olds I've known because I want to. The thing is, this right here is a fragment. It is an incomplete sentence. For something to be a complete sentence, it needs to have a subject and a verb, or a subject and a predicate. So someone or something that's doing something. And sometimes fragments are confusing because you might look at the second piece here, because I want to, and you're thinking, well, there's a subject. We got the word I. That's a thing, a person, place, or thing. That's your subject. And you have a verb. We have want. So there's something that's happening in terms of, an action. We have a verb. So why isn't this a complete sentence? This word right here, this because, is the reason it's a fragment and not a complete sentence all by itself. This word makes all this section reliant on the first part. So you have to have it all put together into one sentence. I buy new boots, get rid of the period, make it a small b. Do you like my fancy eraser? I buy new boots because I want to. And in doing that, what you've done is you've taken those two pieces, combined them into one, you've gotten rid of the sentence fragment, and if you had done this in an essay that you turned into me, you would have just gotten yourself some points back. So that's good. So you always want to check, is there a subject and a verb, and also, does it make sense when it stands on its own, or does it have one of these words like because that makes it reliant on something else that you've written? The next error I want to talk about is called a run-on. As I said, it's also called a fused sentence. And the effect of a run-on is that it feels a little bit breathless. So let's read this one. There are so many things I love about giraffes. I love their long necks and spindly legs and the way they chew leaves. Clearly this is someone who doesn't get to the zoo nearly enough because he or she is very, very excited to see the giraffes. What we have then are two sentences that are jammed together with no punctuation in between them to set them apart. So we have a problem with sentence boundaries. We're lacking necessary boundaries. Perhaps some of you have experienced that in your own lives. Get a therapist. So there are so many things I love about giraffes. Something needs to happen right in here to separate it, to make a boundary before the next bit. I love their long necks and spindly legs and the way they chew leaves. That's okay by itself as a sentence. Everything before this is okay as a sentence. So very easily, yeah, you could put in a period if you wanted to. If you're feeling a little fancy, like you want to try to master the semicolon, this is a great place for a semicolon. Anytime you use a semicolon, basically you want a complete sentence before it and a complete sentence after it. So a semicolon would work. If you just want to do something else that's even more interesting, you also could add in a comma and put in a word that's called a coordinating conjunction. These are words like and, for, so, nor, but, yet. Little short words that are connector words. So you could say, there are so many things I love about giraffes, for I love their long necks. So you could put in a coordinating conjunction with a comma to link those. You also could just take everything I've got right here out, and you could put in one of those words. It's an adverb that makes things reliant. I could put in because. There's so many things I love about giraffes. Actually, because there's a little nonsensical, isn't it? You could just say, here, let's do that. I love giraffes because, there. I want that because. We're going to make it work. I love giraffes because I love their long necks and spindly legs and the way they chew leaves. And if this is a sentence that you've ever uttered in your life, perhaps you need to get out more. find a hobby. You're a little too passionate about giraffes. It's a little strange. All right, then our third major error that you probably either commit yourself or have noticed in other people's writing, and that you will see me taking off points for if you create it in your own work that you submit to me, would be the comma splice. I think this is probably the most common error of all. Again, it's an issue of sentence boundaries. In this case, my son loves the show Mythbusters, comma. He still talks about the episode that proved the human voice can shatter crystal. Right here, this comma, that's the problem. That poor little baby comma is not strong enough to support two separate sentences. So you basically have a complete sentence before the comma, and you have another complete sentence after the comma. You've got to beef up that punctuation. You've got to make it into something stronger. Pretty much you can fix it the same way you would a run-on. You can take the comma, you can make it a period. You could take the comma out and make it into a semicolon. So again, a complete sentence before the semicolon, complete sentence after the semicolon. If you just have become so enamored of that comma you can't bear to bid it adieu, you can keep your comma, but you need to add in one of those coordinating conjunctions again. So and, but, so, for, nor, yet. My son loves the show Mythbusters. And I could just put in the comma and the word and. And he still talks about the episode that proved the human voice can shatter crystal. So, my easiest fixes for a comma splice: change the comma to a period, change the comma to a semicolon, keep your beloved comma, and add in a coordinating conjunction. Alternately, you could restructure the sentences all together. Because my son loves the show Mythbusters, comma, he still talks about the episode that proved the human voice can shatter crystal. So if you want to use that because, you can work it in. So you can restructure things. So you always have options when it comes to these big three errors that crop up so often in writing. But if you get something back from me and I have noted that you have a fragment or a run-on or a comma splice and I've taken off points for that, think about this video and how you can fix things. Period, semicolon, comma plus coordinating conjunction, or blending together two sentences, or adding in missing words if you don't have a subject or a verb up in your fragment. And you also have a textbook that has a chapter explaining these things, and also there's a thing known as ye old interwebs that you could use to Google these terms, find out what the error is, see some more examples, and get some more ideas on how to fix them. So good luck and good writing.